As most of you know, I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy nature. I enjoy wildlife. And there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful things to see and explore in nature. But one thing that is always beautiful to me is the picture of a parent bird as they come back to feed their young that are still in the nest, whatever species that is, as they come back. And the baby birds sense that they're there. They shoot their heads, they tilt their heads back all the way and open wide their beaks and just let the parents drop that food in. It's amazing because those little birds are totally reliant on their parents for a considerable amount of time, depending on what kind of bird it is. But that picture of a bird, baby bird's mouth wide open, is a picture that we also find in Scripture. I don't know if you know that, but in Psalm 81, verse 10, God is saying, I am the Lord your God, it says in verse 10, open your mouths wide that I may feed you. What a beautiful picture that is. Now, when we think about it, especially when that psalm was written, historically, the people of Israel were not prone to trust God. They wanted to find their satisfaction in everything but God. And as we look back, we may wonder that seems like, why in the world they saw God doing all these fascinating and powerful events, and yet they were never satisfied with the Lord. When it was time and they didn't want to trust the Lord for rain, they went to the neighbor's Baal or Baal in 1 Kings chapter 18. We remember that the first physical king of Israel was King Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 8, and they wanted a king like all the neighbors. But underneath it all, it was not just to be like the neighbors. They were afraid of the neighbors. They were afraid of their enemies. And so they just had a hard time ever trusting in God. And in that context is what in Psalm 81 is what they're reminding him, is saying, open wide your mouths, open wide, trust in me, because I am the Lord your God. Now, it's easy for us to beat up on the people of Israel and see their foolishness, to rely on everything but God, but I think we do the same thing. I think that oftentimes God is our last resort rather than our first resort, and I don't know what that may be, but I encourage you to pause for a moment today and think about it. How are the ways that I resist God's graciousness to me, the ways that he gives to me? How are the ways that I'm not opening wide my mouth, my beak, that the Lord may drop in that food that he so promises to provide? I'm Bob Orner, and I'd like you to think about that.